Hello, gardening friends. It is the 1st of May. I've decided to do voiceover because there's far too much wind on the garden site and it's just annoying to listen to. After the rain, you can see here that the clover is really coming up, doing well. Everything just looks a little happier after the rain. The path is still intact, and you can see where water is washing things in from my neighbor's site, but it is not penetrating my path, so that's good. The onions, the walking onions, are all coming up and doing well. And we see the ageratum are also growing, actively getting bigger, doing well with the rain. They seem to like their location. Overall, things are looking pretty good. We have lots of little plants coming up here, enjoying the cover. This area has the alyssum and the perpetual spinach in it. And I'm going to drop some more perpetual spinach seeds down today because I really love it and I want to make sure that it is just everywhere. We do have a bunch of rain coming in the next week that will help these seeds to germinate. And here we have some lettuces that are beginning to sprout. Chickweed. You'll just pull the weeds, they happen. We have some other things coming up here. These are all of the Parisian carrots that grow well in a compacted soil. And I am excited to see what all comes up. We have a couple weeks, not bad considering how windy this area is. It's just a testament to the benefit of keeping the soil covered. Thistle. Many thistles on this site. Just pull them as best as you can. All right. I'm going to get to it. Hello, gardening friends. This is the May 8th update. I'm here today to give you an update and plant some yarrow seedlings, some purple basil seedlings. We've had a lot of rain and storms and tornadoes, so I'm coming to check on the children to make sure they're okay. They look good. Blazing stars, good. Snapdragons here coming in. They'll help dress up the bottom of the blazing star because it tends to look a little ratty at the end of the season. And the snapdragons will still be cute. The crimson clover is really doing well, fluffing up, drawing questions from the neighbors. What is that? Is that spinach? And I'm having opportunities to explain what a cover crop is and why I put that in. Thistle's a big problem here. One of the reasons why I'd love to switch to a no-till method. Hopefully I can talk folks into doing that. And a lot of stuff sprouting, and they're all at that stage where they all look alike. I don't know what's a weed and what's my seed, so I'm going to give them some time to develop so I can tell what's what. Broccoli rabe, as you see, are fine. They made it through. They were a little stressed by the cold snap, but they're good now. A little eaten. I may need to spray these with BT, but they're okay. I've also got some peas, snow peas. Old seed that I just found and I wondered if it was still viable. It's good. They're coming up and I'm going to have snow peas here real soon. And right there, if you can see it, that is a hyacinth bean. I am going to grow these wonderful ornamental plants for the hummingbirds. I'll have them here, 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 here. Essentially at the head of each path in the garden, I planted a hyacinth bean, and I'm going to run them along a string this way and grow them horizontally along the ground. I've never done that before. I want to see if they like it, if I can prune them back enough to keep them relatively neat as a border. And if not, I'll just put an A-frame trellis and maximize the space that I have in the garden. Hopefully it won't create too much shade. But I do love the hummingbirds. Keeping them like that, I think it'll be fine. Over here, tomato plant fell down in the wind. We've had a lot of wind and storms. Weed. Sorry, I get distracted by pulling weeds. This tomato plant fell down, but it's okay. I'm going to be planting it soon. Here we see one tiny seedling of amaranth coming up. I've never grown amaranth. One of my goals is to learn how to grow a maximum number of different plants, so that is part of that goal. The Roma tomatoes are there in the ground, as well as purple Russian heirloom that I'm really excited to grow. I've never tried it before. Over here, a hyacinth bean. Again, we're going to grow that horizontally. Looks like the rain really triggered them. That's a nasturtium. Didn't remember I planted that there. Another hyacinth bean. Let's see. My neighbor's plot has a ton of mint. Spearmint gone wild. Ugh, I'm going to be pulling that stuff out all season. Don't put mint in the ground in a community garden unless you really love mojitos. Coreopsis here are doing well. They're perennials, so they may not bloom till next year, but I'm totally fine with that. I'm willing to pull them out and put them in pots and overwinter them because they're really important for pollinators. The walking onions here are doing great, as they always do. This is the most indestructible onion I've ever grown. Highly recommend that you get them going on your homestead. Anywhere, really. More hyacinth beans coming up. Again, these will be taken horizontally along the onion bed there, rather than vertically to block the sun. Crimson clover over here, doing great. Doing a little better on this side than on the other side. I'm wondering if my neighbor Terry here and his habit of putting manure on his garden has created a little bit better soil on that side. I'm wondering. I haven't met this other neighbor yet, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. We see here, mint. Some of the shallots that I planted do look a lot like grass when they first come up, so be careful. The cotyledons look like grass, and it's actually a shallot or a chive or something that is in the onion family. So just give it a minute, and if it starts to really look like grass, just pull it out. These are snapdragons with the dahlia and a geratum behind. It's just going to be a flower explosion over here. I'm very excited. And also we see here lots of activity. We've got perpetual spinach coming up, as well as the sweet alyssum that attracts the grass. Weed. All the rain has stimulated the weeds, but the alyssum will draw in the beneficial insects. And here you see the dill babies. I love dill in my food. I also love that it's a host for butterflies, and it makes a really beautiful addition to the garden. It smells wonderful too. Here we have a little baby borage plant coming up. Borage is incredible for the garden, a great companion for tomatoes. Borage is very taprooted, and its flower looks like a tomato flower, and the pests will preferentially eat the borage flower rather than your tomato flower. So it's a good sacrifice blossom, and the borage doesn't care. It'll just keep on blooming. It's a really vigorous plant. Here we see oregano. I love oregano, keeping them in pots as a courtesy to my neighbors because it is a perennial and it is very tenacious, and everyone will have it in their plot whether they want it or not if I put it in the ground. Here we see my purple basil and tomatoes waiting to go into the ground. I like to wait and see where I'm going to have space. I don't plant in rows. I plant intensively and staggered. This poor thing got snapped in a storm. But I'm going to have to stick cuttings back in the soil and they will reroot and it'll be okay. Sorry, guy. Hyacinth bean and weed. I forget the name of that weed, but it's everywhere. A nasturtium. I love how I forget where I planted things, and then once it rains, I'm like, oh yeah, I have two plants in the same spot. Here we see another nasturtium. Looks like I got some weeds coming up in my lettuce bed, and I'm just going to give them a minute where I can tell them apart really well, and then I'll start weeding. And that'll also give the seedlings a chance to get their roots established. If you pull a weed right next to a tiny seedling, it can disrupt the root system of the baby that it doesn't recover. So I'm just going to give that a minute before I really start pulling weeds. Let's see here. A lot of stuff going on here. Parisian carrots are starting to come up. Let's check over here. I don't have a ton of time today, so I can't get too crazy. Ah, now these coreopsis are doing a little better than the ones on the other side. Again, I wonder if it is because they are closer to the manure amended lot of my neighbor Terry. We'll see how things go. They definitely do look a bit taller and greener. So if you can get a hold of a source of clean manure that does not have aminopyrrolid residue, use it. Now I did send off for a soil test, and we'll see what the soil test says about what this garden plot actually needs, but I'm pretty sure we need some things, especially nitrogen. Now these lettuces are doing pretty well. Romaine, little gem. I love making wraps with those. And weed. This particular weed is just everywhere. I forget the name of it. It's a wildflower or a weed, but not supposed to be here. And that is a jalapeno pepper. I do love my peppers. And a good companion for the tomatoes here. That's the purple heirloom tomato. Here we see some weeds and also some of my spinach coming up finally. I'm hoping it has time to come to maturity before it bolts. We had kind of a strangely warm spring and then a weird cold snap. So I'm hoping that the spinach is able to actually do something before it gets too hot. If not, I think you know there's plenty of other plants that I can stick in here that I have going at any time. Maybe the basil from over there, that would work. Weed. Okay, let's see. And here I'm starting to see the parsley is sprouting. Looks like they were just waiting on the rain before they took action. And the ageratum, the poppies in the pot here are doing well. I had some old seed, didn't know if it was viable, and it is. I'll have poppies soon. Let's see. Pull a few weeds here. They just seem to be everywhere. We have the dahlia here doing well. And in this bed here, there are beets, lots and lots of beets. And I've also planted some cosmos flowers. They are starting to sprout. This was heavily mulched in, and a lot of the pine duck manure bedding was actually worked into the soil. I wanted the soil to be light enough for the beet roots to actually get big and fat. And then as the beets finish up, the cosmos and the other flowers will continue. Oh, look, lettuce, marigolds. Marigolds are a fantastic trap crop. They attract all the aphids, the cutworms, and other bugs. And the bugs prefer it to your garden plants. So good idea there. I'll probably go get my own sacrifice marigold plants. Some people complain that they draw bugs, but the bugs are going to be there. So give them something else to munch on besides your crops. Let's see here, another hyacinth bean. That'll look beautiful all across here, and once the flowers in the beet bed start blooming, it'll look beautiful with the hyacinth bean. Now this is an Italian heirloom arugula that's also planted here. Cannot tell you how good it tastes. It has a really sweet, kind of punchy flavor. I have not tasted an arugula like that, and I will continue to grow this heirloom every year for as long as I can. It really is just wonderful. And it'll last quite a long time before it bolts too as well. It's pretty heat tolerant. I'd love to preserve that species. I also have shallots and chives going over on this side, so I'm not going to pull out what looks like grass or weed at this point because I'm not sure that it is the quackgrass that it looks like. So we'll leave those for a while. Now that is a weed. Get that. All right. I don't want to get too caught up pulling weeds because that wouldn't be very interesting for you to watch. So I will just say that I'm going to go through here, plant my yarrow seedlings and some purple basil probably. Hi, yarrow! And then I'm going to pull a few weeds and kind of comb through and see who else wants to tell me something or what else I can observe. Hi, basil. Yeah, I think they are ready to go. They're ready. First set of true leaves. Paper pots, by the way, are amazing. Look at all the water in there. I bottom watered these and the paper pots held up fine. They don't fall apart, and I highly recommend you use them because They are renewable. Open them up, set them in the ground, and the plants just grow, and that's all you got to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get to it. Everyone's looking good after the storm. We'll maybe save this poor soul, but everything else is good, and I'm going to get to work. See you later. Hello, gardening friends. It is May 16th, and I'm just going to take a quick peek here before I get started with the work that I'd like to do today, so you can see what's going on. As you can see, marigolds. I decided to go ahead and plant them here and there as a trap crop. They don't actually repel much other than a few species of nematode, but they are really good at attracting and trapping aphids, cutworms, lots of other critters that would eat your garden plants. So that makes the world a little safer for them. Now here you see the broccoli rabe is a little eaten. I did spray them with BT because they were a bit stressed when I planted them and they would be really vulnerable to chewing. So that will help make sure the caterpillars don't eat them completely to death before they can even produce broccoli rabe. So hopefully that helps. The poppies are still going. I also suspect that there may be, the heirloom tomatoes here don't look so hot. I think they possibly have a fungal disease and possibly also a phosphorus deficiency. There may have been a disease in the soil. Obviously, I didn't garden here last year, don't know what happened. And it looks like the heirlooms are just not doing as well as the Roma, the San Marzano Romas that look unfazed by anything that I have thrown at them so far. Maybe they are not susceptible to this particular fungus, or maybe the heirlooms just were more stressed. I'm hoping they'll recover. If they don't start to perk up, I'm going to pull them so that they don't potentially infect anything else in the garden. I'm going to plant this guy instead, maybe. This looks fantastic, and they're so healthy. And I'm just seeing, look at this root system, already coming out of the pot. Yeah, matter of fact, I think I'm going to plant this one. It's keen. It's keen. It's ready. Vying for a spot. All right. And here, down this path, he'll more than likely replace one of these anemic-looking ones. Sorry. And here we see a green bean plant, a hyacinth bean right next to it. Today I'm going to put the string line in that the hyacinth bean will move along. And I'm going to allow that one to grow this way and this one to grow that way. And they will eventually meet in an explosion of purple flowers that will attract many hummingbirds and look awesome. Either that or an A-frame if they get too bushy. Now here, purple basil, yarrow. That whole bed will be yarrow and purple basil. And that is a cucumber plant that I am hoping does well there with its tomato neighbors. A couple more beans there as well. I'm holding off on planting my squash until July to avoid the first wave of vine borers. And let the first wave go by and just avoid those if you can. This is a green bean, purple basil. I like to plant intensively using intensive gardening methods, staggered plantings, and hexagonal shapes. And then I am open to the intuitive shaping of beds as the plants ask for. I am also waiting on getting my soil test results back. I want to know exactly what's missing so that I can amend it properly and not just throw things willy-nilly. If you put a bunch of Epsom salt in your soil because you think your plants need magnesium and that's why they're yellow, and your garden didn't need magnesium and now you have too much magnesium in your soil, that's just as much of a problem as a deficiency. It can actually cause blossom end rot. Don't just put amendments on your soil unless you know that they're needed. Soil test helps elucidate that. So I'm going to get started with weeding. There's not too many. The very baby seedlings look a little dry, so I'm going to water them. And I'm just going to make sure that any sick tomato plants get replaced. I will see you later. Hello, gardening friends. It is May 16th. Again, this is a voiceover to avoid the noise. Taking a look at the garden, my nice new bee drinking fountain right here. I'm very excited about that and providing that resource for the bees. The rest of the garden is actually looking good. See, we've got the strings in here for the hyacinth beans to climb along. right over there. And then we have 2 more lines here. If it doesn't work out, I'll build an A-frame right there, and I'll just have a little shady hidey hole for me to sit in and read a book in the garden. The tomatoes are looking much happier now. I'm glad to see that. Taking a peek here. The peppers are still going. And I'm going to get to work weeding. And here we are again. I have weeded and I have put in some mulch. I pulled all the weeds along here, which there were a lot. Took some of the crimson clover as chop and drop and placed it on top of the soil, along with some additional crops, perpetual spinach, buttercrunch lettuce, and more of the kale that I put in earlier that is just beginning to sprout and is looking good. I actually harvested 2 broccoli raabs, which was exciting. It's a new crop for me, so I'm excited to try that. I've never grown that plant before. I also planted some more Parisian carrots along there. About half of the ones I planted sprouted or maybe were eaten by critters or were gone. So I filled in the blanks there where there were no carrots. Put in some more escarole there because I love that. And just kind of pulled weeds, filled in empty spaces where things failed to germinate, and mixing this compost, alfalfa meal, duck bedding stuff into the soil, topping off areas here, topping any bare soil, because anywhere there's bare soil, the weeds are going absolutely nuts because it is just weed haven here because they till. Here is some black cumin, a favorite spice of mine that has really pretty flowers, and I'm curious to see those. There are the bachelor's buttons, which are starting to sprout. You can't really see it. And all along here, the Egyptian walking onions are doing great. No surprise. The dahlia is getting quite a bit bigger. Looks like it might be ready to bud soon. And here, same thing. I took some of the crimson clover for chop and drop, mixed it in with the soil, and any empty spaces between the sweet alyssum and the beatina, perpetual spinach on this side, I just filled it in with more of the same. I want to make sure I have a lot of that perpetual spinach and to make sure the soil is covered with something growing over the mulch at all times. Ooh, cosmos is sprouting. Good news. The borage is getting bigger. It's a great companion for the tomatoes. And everyone else seems generally well. The tomato plants are not struggling anymore. Let's see. I did pass out some foliar feed to the plants because I do know that the soil is deficient in some things. I have phosphorus supplement on the way because I do know that the soil is deficient in that. Even though I don't have my soil test result back yet, I can see the signs in the plants. And the dill here is coming up, doing well. It'll be a nice little patch of dill. And that right there is just kind of a composting area. I don't have anywhere to store it, so I have to eat up garden space with it. But it's okay. Eventually, I will use that space and put in my fall crops. My delicata squash is on the way. I'll probably have some collard greens because I love collard greens, and some more spinach. So that'll be nice fertile soil under that compost pile to use for that. Definitely make use of the cool weather garden this year. Other than that, it looks like, we have some beets coming up. I also have in this bed some cosmos flowers. As the beets wrap up their season and I harvest them, there will be an empty space, and the flowers filling that in will be just lovely, keep a living root in the ground. I also have quinoa from the first half of the bed. I have never grown the plant before. I'd love to know what that's like, to get some knowledge on that. So that's what that little test area is for. And this, another view of my bee fountain. It's just a plastic saucer tray you would put under a potted plant to keep it from leaking on the floor. And I have filled it with little clear marbles, seashells, just decorative things, and a cork as well. And as that fills up with water, it will help if the bees fall in, they'll have something to climb onto to get out so that they don't drown. It's really important not to have a deep vessel of water in your garden with no way for the bees or other insects to get out. At least put some corks on top. So everything else looks well, and look at this. 2 of the walking onions are getting ready to flower and set bulbils. It's only the 2nd week of May, and already they have gone through their life cycle and are ready to start the new generation. That's why I love these things. Look at that. Already flowering. So I see the lawn mowing crew is coming this way, so I will say see you later. Till next time, happy gardening. Hello, gardening friends. It is May 20th. Just checking in. As you can see, the broccoli rabe is bolting. You can eat that. I tried a few, but I think I'd rather have the flowers for the pollinators at this time than for me to eat all the tops. So I will let them go and get some seeds to grow this fall. Here we see the amaranth is coming up. It's a cool looking plant. I'm excited about that. More mint popping in. The tomato plants are looking great. I'm going to give them the Seabird Guano Phosphorus supplement today to help them continue to look great and to put on lots of flowers and fruit. And here you see this mound. If you remember, there used to be a trash bag there. I took the grass clippings, see that? They left it sitting on the grass. The day that I came, it was fresh and I was very excited. So I gathered some of it, layered it with some of the pine bedding and some of the rehydrated alfalfa pellets, and just layered it like lasagna, layer by layer, trying to get to a decent ratio of carbon to nitrogen matter. Not exact, but good enough. Ballpark. So this will be a compost pile that will break down, and I'll eventually use it to top dress everything and then plant something in that area in the fall once I've cleared the pile. Here we see the crimson clover has been chopped and dropped a couple of times and used it to cover the soil here, primarily in this area. These beds didn't have much cover, and that'll help feed these plants, the sweet alyssum and the perpetual spinach. Here we see the little baby carrots coming up. Those are Parisian carrots. These are a round carrot, like a ball, kind of like in between a golf ball and a baseball. And they grow really well in compacted soil where you wouldn't be able to grow a carrot that is a long, slender taproot. And I am excited to have some of those. They're very tasty, very flavorful. So I'm going to get started pulling weeds and doing all the things. Let's see here. Weed pressure doesn't look too bad today. Let's see the beets. The beets are starting to get some color on their stems. Look at that. So pretty. And a really tasty green as well if you've never had it. Oh, weed. All right, I can't wait for these beets to mature. So I'm going to get in here and pull all the weeds here. And now that I can tell who's who, who's arugula and who's a weed. See you later. Hello, gardening friends. It is May 25th. And this bolting broccoli rabe is still doing well, getting lots more flowers on it. As you can see, really pretty. Oh, and the dahlia just behind it is beginning to open. That is very exciting. Can't wait to see those in full bloom. The tomato plants looking good. Here we see. Don't need to do much to those today. I'm just taking a look in general. The crimson clover is filling out. And this tomato plant, oh, this one is flowering. I'm going to pinch that flower back. I want the plants to get a little bit bigger before they start fruiting. Baby kale, doing well. And I've got all kinds of weed, probably pigweed here, or pokeweed, hard to tell at this age. Man, that's in there. What a taproot. If you can get it all the better. Just pull these few weeds. Let's see. More weeds. That is quack grass. Or no, smartweed. There we go, smartweed. And on this side, I see a pot of an ornamental grass I'm just growing out. The blazing star are about to bloom. I can see them bolting and some buds. A string line for the hyacinth beans that will climb along that. And the amaranth, see the purple color along with some cosmos with it. That's going to be a pretty patch. And just checking, observing, slowing down, making sure I catch whatever the garden has to tell me. Oh, a geratum is blooming on this side as well. One of my favorite flowers. As are the sweet alyssum. They are starting to bloom as well. They'll attract a ton of beneficial insects. I do need to get that clover cut back because it is starting to impede on everyone. Perpetual spinach coming up and doing well. I really love to eat that. Oh, look at the borage getting big. And here, looks like we have a leaf roller bug. Tell you what, the beans have been hit hard by bugs. So I'm going to spray them today with some insecticidal soap if I see any culprits. And hopefully that helps them. We've got Mexican bean beetles and squash beetles, and they're hard to catch in the act. So I'm hoping the plants can recover. As I do not want to use diatomaceous earth. It will kill everything, including the good bugs. Let's see here. The lettuces, as you can see, are doing well. Oh, I see a bug. Oh, no. Okay. This is not a ladybug. This is a squash beetle, not a squash bug. Those look like stink bugs. Squash beetles kind of look like ladybugs that are orange and a little bigger. They will eat everything in your garden, so I'm going to have to go ahead and take care of him before he eats my garden. He's probably the one that's been chewing on my bean plants. Let me see here. Oop, he's crawling away. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? There he goes. Squishing the beetle. So sorry. Love you. Not here. Anywho. Now, here we see the beets getting bigger. Also, some of the flowers that I planted along with them, the cosmos, are coming up. And I kind of forgot what else I planted in there, so we'll just see what comes up. And the hyacinth bean is doing well. I'll keep reminding it the string is there to climb on. It's not ready yet, but when it gets a little longer, I'll train it onto that string. Nope, weed. I'm so excited for the dahlia to bloom. The tomatoes are looking a little better. They were looking really stressed and maybe a little sick, but they seem okay. And that lettuce in there is a great companion for tomatoes. As the tomatoes get big and need more root space, the lettuce will be done, so it's a right match. Spinach has survived and didn't bolt, which is shocking, so I am glad to see that. Oh, definitely a lot of weeds in here. We've got a lot of pigweed and smartweed. I did replant this area with some more greens, so, oh, look, some of them are coming up. I'm going to get some water on that to help those keep started. The parsley. Oh, that's not parsley. Get out of here, weed. The actual parsley is doing well. I love parsley and I love growing it for the butterflies. So we can share. I'll plant some more just to make sure there's enough. Oh, these weeds. Mercy. Weeds, weeds, weeds. Hand pulling is the best solution. All right, I'll get started. Hello, gardening friends. It is May 30th, as you can see, and everything is looking quite a bit bigger and greener. Let's take a look. Here we see I have wrapped the pots in just some craft paper to keep them cool. I don't want the sun to beat on those black pots and make the grass get stressed out from too much heat, and just tired of watering them also. And look at this. The dahlia has opened. Hello, gorgeous. Oh. Back here, the arugula is starting to fill out. I love arugula. I've been harvesting that. Look, there's a friend on the marigold. Hi. And over here, everything seems to be doing well. You'll see I've taken some bamboo poles and created a little tripod. I kind of gambled on some old seeds for peas, and they were viable. So I'm building them a little place now to climb and do their thing. In addition to that, I have kind of planned to let the hyacinth bean climb over this same structure. Once the peas are done, the snap peas will be done pretty quickly. And then the hyacinth bean can just take up that empty space, and it'll stay there all summer. And I'll be happy to harvest those seeds. Now here, there's another tomato plant. It was just sitting there in a pot, so I went ahead and put it into the ground. There were already baby Roma tomatoes on it, so I cut those off. I want the plant again to get a little bigger and focus on vegetative growth so that it can produce more fruit rather than just staying short and small and only having a few tomatoes on it. So I'm encouraging it to continue growing with some nitrogen fertilizer to stimulate that growth. Here we see my lavender. I'll keep that right there. I love lavender. And the baby kale are doing great. And also we see additional babies that I planted most recently that the rain stimulated. Hello, friend. Hi, bee. Thanks for your help. So many bees here. It's happy. It looks like in general, most of the plants in the garden are starved for nitrogen and just nutrients in general. So I've been giving them foliar feed. Unfortunately, I'll have to support them in that way because I don't have the ability right now to improve the soil. It's going to take a cover crop this fall to get that going. So for now, it's foliar feeding. Yeah, this ageratum is just about to pop. You got buds opening there. It's one of my favorite flowers. Oh, and this dahlia too is ready to bloom. And here we see the perpetual spinach and alyssum are filling out now that I have given them some space. I cut back a lot of that clover and got it out of there. And this side here, on this other tripod, I'll have cucamelon seedlings. I have them going at home. One of my favorite cucurbits. They don't have the same issues as other cucumbers, and they will produce all summer. And maybe I'll put a shade-loving herb underneath there. And that'll be really cool. Those are such a great snack to just have right in the garden. Oregano there, because I unfortunately killed my seedlings by bringing them out too soon. It was very sad. And here, there's a string tied to the tomato cage, and that is to let this hyacinth bean have somewhere to climb as well. And on this side too. I decided not to let the hyacinth beans ramble along the ground on the string, because I feel like it's going to get a little cluttered on the ground now that things are starting to fill in. So I'll just let those climb up there and just have a few plants going along the path and see if I like that. The carrots have gotten quite a bit bigger. They're doing great. Underground, I'm sure they're starting to look good. I'll be ready to harvest them soon, and I'll just keep feeding them a micronutrient and also a phosphorus supplement because the soil is really depleted of that. Don't give them much nitrogen because that makes carrots have hairy, tough roots, and nobody wants that. So just the phosphorus. And here, the lettuces are looking fantastic. It's about time for harvest, and I have successive crops so that every few weeks there will be more salad. Oh, here we have a flower. We need to pinch off this tomato plant. No blooming yet. These green beans are just getting nailed by bugs, and I can never find the perpetrator. I'm assuming it's a beetle like the one I found a few days ago. I'm hoping that they stay strong and they can make it through being chewed a bit. And again, I'm not going to use diatomaceous earth. I don't think that I should just kill everything indiscriminately just so I can have some green beans that I could have gotten at the store. So I've taken out that sickly tomato plant and put a new seedling in that I had going at home just to be safe in case it was a virus. The lettuces under here look great. They're enjoying that shade. More beans getting chewed. Ooh. And I think that is about it over here. Looking over here, I'm seeing the beets are looking great. They've gotten quite a bit bigger from the rain. They'll be ready to harvest soon for baby beets. Rather than thinning and just throwing them away, I'm going to have baby beets. And then I'll let the rest of them grow into adult beets. The parsley, doing well, holding out. And I'll leave you with this lovely dahlia. Happy gardening!